Remember a time when days felt endless, kids played outside until dusk, and the world moved at its own gentle pace. Step back with us to 1970s Australia, where life was simple, summers were long, and every moment mattered. The Australian way of life. Close your mind to the noise of today for just a second, and imagine stepping into a warm Australian morning in the mid-1970s. The sun climbs early, the air smells faintly of eucalyptus, and life moves at a pace that lets you actually notice it. No buzzing phones, no screens glowing in every room, just the soft rattle of a ceiling fan and the distant sound of kids already outside, chasing adventures long before breakfast is ready. Back then, whole neighbourhoods felt like extended families. You knew every house on the street, every dog, every mum calling her kids home for tea. Doors weren't locked unless you were leaving for days, because trust wasn't something you hoped for. It was simply there, woven into the rhythm of daily life. Kids ruled the outdoors, bare feet slapped against warm pavement as bikes flew past, tin lunchboxes abandoned somewhere under a gum tree, until hunger reminded you they existed. You didn't need a plan, a schedule, or a permission slip. You just needed the whole day ahead of you and the freedom to fill it. Afternoons drifted by slowly, radio playing in the kitchen, sprinklers clicking across fading grass, neighbours stopping by just because they were passing. And when the sky shifted to that deep orange only an Australian sunset can make, families gathered around the dinner table, sharing stories no one had to film to remember. Life wasn't perfect, but it was simple. And sometimes simplicity is the thing we end up missing the most. Australian suburbs. Picture yourself stepping out onto a warm suburban street somewhere in Australia, sometime around 1976. The morning sun bounces off rows of brick houses and weatherboard homes, each one proudly carrying the marks of weekend projects and decades of family stories. Wide streets stretch out lazily, long driveways leading to garages where a dusty Holden Kingswood or a solid Ford Falcon waits patiently for its next trip to the shops. There's a sound you can still hear if you think hard enough. The familiar slap of a screen door snapping shut as someone pops outside to hang washing or call the kids home. It's a sound that belonged to the suburbs as much as gum trees and the afternoon magpies. And drifting through it all is that unmistakable smell of freshly mown lawn. A scent that meant Saturday chores were done and the rest of the day was your own. Some backyards even had shimmering blue pools, their surfaces glittering under the tough Aussie sun. Kids cannonballed into them until their lips turned purple, towels forgotten in tangled piles on hot concrete. You could always hear laughter, real, loud, unfiltered, carrying over fences that divided yards but never divided neighbours. Life in the suburbs moved at its own steady rhythm. Parents chatted over fences, kids roamed in packs, and every home felt lived in rather than styled. At dusk, when the heat finally loosened its grip, families drifted inside one by one, screen doors clicking behind them as another simple day came to a gentle end. Childhood outdoors. Think back to a time when stepping outside in the morning meant you might not return until the sun dipped behind the rooftops. Childhood in 1970s Australia belonged to the outdoors, wide, open, endless. No one needed to know exactly where you were, only that you'd turn up again when the sky began to fade, and somehow you always did. Bikes were your passport. Skateboards, roller skates, and scraped knees were just part of the deal. You'd tear down footpaths with the wind in your face, leaving trails of chalk drawings behind. Hopscotch grids, wild doodles, colourful scribbles that stayed until the next storm washed them clean. Summer days were ruled by water. Buckets of water balloons ready for battle, sprinklers ticking in the backyard as kids shrieked and sprinted through them, leaving wet footprints across sunburnt lawns. And the games, there were always games. Backyard cricket with wheelie bins as wickets. Footy in the park, where the rules changed depending on who showed up. Endless rounds of Red Rover, Brandy and British Bulldog. the kind of rough and tumble fun that left you breathless and laughing. There weren't many rules, but everyone lived by one sacred line: be home before dark. No phone calls, no check-ins, no tracking. Just trust, freedom, and the distant sound of someone's mum yelling out that dinner was ready. Those days weren't fancy or planned. They were simple. And in that simplicity, something unforgettable grew. Home life and family. Step through the doorway of a typical Australian home in the 1970s, and you'd instantly feel the heartbeat of family life. The kitchen was the centre of everything. Bright, bold, and proudly decorated in harvest gold or avocado green. Fridges hummed softly. Laminate tables bore the marks of years of meals and homework. And the smell of Vegemite toast drifted through the house long before anyone was fully awake. Mornings often began with the gentle clink of glass bottles being left by the milko on the front step, followed later by the baker dropping off fresh bread still warm enough to soften butter instantly. Kids grabbed a slice on their way out the door, crumbs trailing behind them like footprints of the morning rush. Evenings pulled everyone back together. No matter how busy the day had been, dinner meant gathering around the same table. No exceptions, no arguments. Plates were filled with Aussie staples: meat and 3 veg, rissoles sizzling straight from the pan, sausage sizzles that tasted better than anything money could buy, and desserts like lamingtons or pavlova that never lasted long. The lounge room was sacred territory, home to the single television set the entire family shared. One TV, one screen, one choice. So you learned to compromise, to wait, and to enjoy watching together. Life at home wasn't grand or complicated. It was warm, reliable, and built on small rituals that stitch families together. Quiet moments that, looking back, mattered more than anyone realised. Entertainment and media. Imagine settling into a cosy lounge room on a cool evening in the mid-70s. The soft glow of the single television lighting up the entire house. Entertainment back then wasn't scattered across endless screens. It was something families gathered around shoulder to shoulder, sharing the same laughs, gasps, and quiet moments. TV nights had a kind of magic to them. Australian households tuned in faithfully to the shows that defined the decade. Skippy the Bush Kangaroo brought outback adventures to suburban lounge rooms. Number 96 pushed boundaries in ways no one had seen before. Homicide kept viewers glued to their seats with gritty drama, while Countdown turned Sunday nights into a national ritual. Big hair, wild outfits, and the music that shaped a generation. And come Saturday night, the TV belonged to sport, VFL clashes, or rugby league battles filling living rooms across the country. When the television wasn't on, the radio filled the silence. John Farnham's early hits drifted through open windows. Skyhooks and Little River Band shaped the soundtrack of lazy afternoons. And somewhere in the mix, the raw early sound of AC/DC blasted from car speakers and backyard barbecues. In many homes, a cassette player or vinyl turntable sat proudly in the lounge, a treasure chest of music. Kids learned to handle records carefully. Adults argued over whose turn it was to choose the next album, and the crackle before a song played was as familiar as the tune itself. Entertainment wasn't flashy, it was shared. And maybe that's why it stays with us. School life. Picture a crisp morning in an Australian suburb, the streets quiet except for the patter of children walking or cycling to school. Back in the 1970s, the journey itself was part of the day's adventure. Uniforms were worn with pride, straw hats or wide-brimmed caps shielding faces from the sun, backpacks bouncing with lunchboxes and books. Classrooms were orderly spaces. Teachers carried clear authority. Their instructions followed without question. Lessons were structured, distractions minimal, and students learned to focus, because attention was the currency of success. The day's rhythm was predictable, comforting. Math before recess, reading after lunch, music on Thursday. Lunchtime brought a familiar ritual. Brown paper bags filled with sandwiches, fruit, and perhaps a little treat tucked in by a parent. Those simple lunches fueled games in the playground, cricket with makeshift bats, hopscotch chalked on asphalt, and the occasional tumble during tag. Discipline was straightforward. If you got in trouble at school, you got in trouble at home too. No endless meetings or phone calls, just clear, consistent consequences. Yet most children stayed on track, not out of fear alone, but because the structure made life simple and predictable. Walking home, sun warm on the shoulders, the day's lessons would fade into the background, while friends planned the afternoon's adventures. School wasn't just a building, it was a rhythm, a community, and a training ground for the freedoms that awaited outside the gates. And when the school bell rang for the last time each week, it marked more than freedom. It marked another small chapter of a simple, structured, unforgettable childhood. Afternoons and weekends. Step off the school bus, drop your bag by the door, and race outside. The afternoon stretched wide and free in the suburbs of 1970s Australia. Backyards became arenas for cricket matches until the sun dipped low, and streets were alive with skateboards clattering over asphalt, friends calling out across fences. Summer afternoons often meant public swimming pools packed with children splashing, shrieking, and competing to see who could make the biggest cannonball. Parents watched from the edges, towels draped over shoulders, sandwiches in hand, while the smell of sunscreen mingled with the sweet scent of the grass. Weekends were made for community and family. Parks filled with the scent of sizzling sausages on barbecues, laughter echoing across open fields. Friends gathered, teams formed spontaneously, and every kick, hit or throw was celebrated with cheers and playful teasing. Evenings slowed the pace. Families reunited inside, trading the open air for board games around the kitchen table. Cluedo mysteries were solved, snakes and ladders races ran their course, Monopoly battles tested patience, and Connect Four became a game of strategy and teasing. The house buzzed with conversation, laughter, and the warm glow of familiarity. Time moved differently then, less rushed, less pressured, more about shared moments, simple joys, and discovering fun in your own backyard or around the corner. And as the streetlights flickered on, signalling the end of another day, you carried the memory of freedom, play, and connection with you into the night. Road trips and holidays. Climb into a car packed to the roof with luggage, board games, and the inevitable dog, and you were ready for an Australian road trip in the 1970s. GPS didn't exist, just a paper map spread across laps, fingers tracing highways and back roads while the hum of the engine blended with the chatter of siblings arguing over the best seat. Windows were down against the heat, dust swirling in from dirt roads, and the air smelled of sunscreen, eucalyptus, and excitement. The esky was stocked to the brim, sandwiches wrapped in wax paper, cordial in glass bottles, and ice that rattled against the sides with every bump in the road. Destinations varied, but adventure was guaranteed. Families drove to the golden sands of the Gold Coast, winding along the cliffs of the Great Ocean Road, or further inland for outback escapades. Caravan parks offered a base of simple comfort, while beaches stretched for miles, dunes rolling endlessly into the horizon. Kids built sand castles, paddled in waves, and raced along the shoreline with sticky feet. Nights were spent under canvas tents, the crackle of campfires mixing with the distant lullaby of waves on the shore. Stories were shared, marshmallows roasted, and the stars felt closer than they ever would in the city. Road trips weren't about luxury or speed. They were about togetherness, adventure, and a sense of discovery that started the moment the car pulled out of the driveway. And when the journey ended, you carried the smell of sand, the echo of laughter, and a map folded carefully back into the glove box, ready for the next adventure. Australian summers. Summer in 1970s. Australia stretched like a golden ribbon, endless and sun-soaked. Days began early, with children running barefoot over hot asphalt, laughter echoing down quiet streets, while the air shimmered with heat. Flip-flops, thongs as everyone called them, slapped against sun-warmed concrete as families wandered toward pools, beaches and neighbourhood parks. Saltwater pools glistened in backyard gardens, their surfaces sparkling like jewels under the relentless sun. The smell of chlorine mixed with sunscreen, eucalyptus and barbecues wafting from nearby yards. Ice cream vans rolled down streets at midday, the familiar jingle prompting children to rush. Coins clutched tightly in little hands for frosty fruits, icy poles or soft-serve cones. The summer heat slowed life in the best possible way. People moved slower, spoke softer and paused longer, noticing the hum of cicadas, the distant bark of dogs and the laughter of friends lingering in the sun. By the late 1970s, the mantra "slip, slop, slap" began, urging everyone to cover up and protect their skin. But the carefree spirit of the days remained. Evenings brought relief as golden light faded into long, warm nights. Families sat on verandas, the scent of barbecues and salt in the air. Stories passed from one generation to the next, and the horizon stretching endlessly beyond the back fence. Those summers weren't measured in hours. They were measured in freedom, adventure, and the simple joy of being outdoors. Values and feelings. Close your eyes and step back into the 1970s, a time when life seemed slower and the world felt larger. Rules were simple: be home before dark, respect your elders, and enjoy the day. Stress was minimal, and there was little pressure to measure yourself against others. Success was being part of your community, riding your bike until your legs burned, or spending a Saturday afternoon in the backyard. Time felt endless. Summers stretched on forever. Afternoons drifted lazily, and the smallest moments, catching frogs, sharing a sandwich with a friend, watching the clouds roll by, took on monumental importance. Life wasn't rushed, it was savoured. Families were tightly connected. Meals at the same table, conversations that weren't interrupted by phones or screens, and quiet evenings playing board games or listening to the radio brought a sense of warmth and belonging. Neighbours were more than neighbours. They were part of an extended family, watching out for each other's children and sharing in everyday joys. Freedom had a tangible quality back then. You could wander streets, explore parks, or spend hours at the beach without a schedule, without tracking devices, without constant worry. It was a freedom both simple and profound, a gift of trust, space, and time. Looking back, it's clear that the values of that decade, simplicity, connection, and the appreciation of small joys, shaped more than childhoods. They shaped a way of feeling, a sense of security, and a love of life that endures long after the streets went quiet. As the sun sets on another 1970s day, close your eyes and breathe it all in. The laughter, the freedom, the simple joys. Those moments may belong to the past, but their spirit lives on in every memory, every story, every heart that remembers what it felt like when life was truly simple.